Welcome, everyone, to another wonderful episode of Tuesday Talks and Tips. It is now episode 15. Would you believe that? We've been running consecutive 15 Tuesdays. And we're just having a lot of fun here. And today's presenter is familiar to many of you, like Mary, who's been here. She's missed only one of these 15 sessions. Today's
Yeah.
presenter is from District 3. She is the Pathways Coordinator, or I always get the names mixed up. I think she's the Pathways Chair. Each district has their own names for their chief honchos. So she is the District's 3 Pathways Chair. She has created a Pathways Assist or Pathways Help Desk for her district, and not just her district, but she shares it freely around the world with various districts. Today's session is going to be really interesting because Trish is going to show us where those CC projects are hidden, tucked away, woven somewhere in Pathways. And heads up, it's not a one-to-one correspondence, but I am preempting Trish. So let us all welcome Trish.
That's one thing that will still take some getting used to for me is I want to applaud too, because I want to applaud you for all for being here. This conversation or this presentation started out as a conversation that one of our senior members hit me up with at an event one day. She kind of cornered me in the room, absolutely convinced she was going to be able to convince me Pathways was a horrible thing. And I listened, which is an important thing. You need to listen first. And I listened to everything that she had to say. And I said, and my answer was this: you've given me something to think about, but I bet I can find the answer. And she laughed and I chuckled, and I came home, and about 3 hours later I sent her the answer, and she wrote back. She goes, dang, you found it again, and I can't quit now. So it's become a joke. She was ready to bail on Toastmasters. She was, because Toastmasters wasn't going to let her continue her journey in Toastmasters the way she desired. And by finding where the competent communicator projects were in Pathways for her, I managed to salvage another member and keep them in Toastmasters. So when I am going through this presentation, it's very much from a heart for those seasoned members who are still struggling with leaving the legacy program behind and moving on to Pathways. Even I will have to admit that there was a comfort level for me in doing another competent communicator every year, year after year. I always felt like I was contributing to my club. I always felt like I was keeping myself well grounded in those 9 fundamental skills of successful speaking. And it was hard to think of letting that go. But when I found them for her, I found them for so many others, including myself. And now I'm here to share it again with you tonight. Where is the CC in Pathways? I'm happy to say that it is alive and well. So let me go ahead and share my little presentation for you. And we'll make sure that everybody can see this. You'll see that this has District 3 and all of our contact information all over it, because this is going to get recycled within our district for helping those last season members hopefully come across and join the fold here on the pathway side of everything. So where is the competent communicator in Pathways? There we go. Okay. One of the benefits of having a new educational program is the excitement of having something new. How is Pathways really going to work? Where is it going to take us? What new is it going to bring to us? These are all the things that we're very excited about with having Pathways now. But there is a comfort level to what we knew that is hard for many to let go of. And so what I have found in sharing Pathways here in District 3 is being able to find the familiar for our traditional folks so that they see that Pathways at its core is still very much what they expect from Toastmasters, but it has some new packaging and some new opportunities with it. So members will continue to look for those impromptu speaking projects within Pathways, but granted, they are harder for them to find. They want projects that can still focus on those core skills for speaking success and that can also be applied for speech credit to help their club with their Distinguished Club program goals. Referred to as the Competent Communicator projects. These projects still remain alive and well in Pathways, but they are hidden in some nooks and crannies, so you do need to know where to find them. This matrix was my first take. This is what I actually sent over to my friend to convince her that they really were still there. This aligns the traditional Competent Communicator projects on the left-hand side of the screen with their counterparts in Pathways on the right-hand side of the screen. You will find 9 of the 10 Competent Communicator projects living and breathing in all paths known today. The 10th one, persuasive speaking, is the only one that's limited in availability. You'll find the persuasive speaking project only in the presentation mastery path. But you can see we still have the icebreaker, that's the obvious one. The organize your speech is the one that you have to give me a little bit of faith on. It's a bit of a stretch, but it does fit well with the evaluation and feedback projects, the speeches 1 and 2. How you say it does have a parallel in the using descriptive language path. Your body speaks has a parallel in the effective body language. Vocal variety absolutely goes straight across in understanding vocal variety. Research your topic has a researching and presenting equivalent. The get comfortable with visual aids has the creating effective visual aids as its counterpart. And then inspire your audience is available as inspire your audience. That has also remained the same name. So let me pause here and see if there are any questions. I don't have my chat screen anymore, so Michelle or Lori or anyone, I'm counting on you to help me see if there's dialogue going on.
Yeah, right now there's no dialogue. So while
Okay.
waiting for any questions to pop up, I wanted to, I guess it's not a question, it's more of a comment from an experienced Toastmaster who, when he saw the announcement about today's session, posted on one of the Facebook groups that it is, and I'm paraphrasing, it is ridiculous to think that you have a drawer with arms and another drawer with legs and another drawer with feet and so on. And then you say, see, I have a body. And I just wanted to, it was said more dramatically, but
I
that's the
get it.
gist of it. So I wanted you, if you'd like to comment on that statement.
Well, remember, as I have said before, after joining this group, as the Pathways Chair here in District 3, I wear a big target on my back as I go around from event to event. And I encourage people to fire away at the target. I like the challenge of being able to find solutions for them with Pathways, and familiarity in Pathways from the things that they still know and love and want to find again. So I I would look forward to talking to, to the person that you were talking to, because I'm not just trying to find parts to the body in the drawer, out of drawers here. I'll show you in just a moment how logical this progression still is and why it works well in pathways. So, are there any other questions or comments at this time?
Yes, and if people want to ask questions, I'm watching the gallery view. So if you just raise your hand, I will hopefully see you. Yeah, Nina, go
Nina.
ahead and mute yourself. Okay, hang
Nina.
on.
Yeah.
Okay, I've unmuted you there.
Okay, I'm Nina Heights. I'm
Hi,
area
Nina.
director from Area 21 in Oregon. And I'm looking at your chart, which is wonderful. You have the different places where these speeches are available in presentation mastery and engaging humor. Are they in other other areas also, or just
Yes.
these two?
No, you will find 9 of the 10 projects across all 11 paths.
Okay.
Okay. The only one that's limited is the persuasive speaking. It is in presentation mastery only.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Any others?
Thanks, Nina. Anyone, just raise your hand. I have two computers, so I am trying to see everyone on both screens. So just raise your hand. Okay, go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, I was just looking at the Toastmaster magazine I got, and it showed the presentation mastery was the most popular of the paths. So that's why I was wondering why you picked those two, presentation mastery and engaging humor. So what?
I have a very good reason for picking those two. If you'll hold on for just, I think, 2 more slides, and then it will all come together, I promise.
Okay.
We
All
got
right.
some suspense.
Okay.
Let me see. Dennis, were you about to raise your hand? I'm not sure. Okay, I was afraid I might have missed. So, was there
Okay.
anyone raising their hand? Let me just do a quick look on the other screen. Okay, I think we're good. So go ahead. Go ahead, Trish.
All right. Let's move on. I have used presentation mastery as the basis for what I'm about to show you, but I'm going to reinforce that I went through all 11 paths to make sure that I could say safely that this would apply to any of the paths that I was bringing up on screen. So if you happen to be using this Pathways and Core Competencies document, that was one of the early documents released by World Headquarters during the deployments of pathways. This document has been one of the most effective documents we've been using here in District 3. I continue to find new uses for it when having pathways discussions. For the comment, though, that Mary just made, presentation mastery is one of the most popular choices. And I think that had something to do with the fact that it is one of 2 pure communication paths, meaning that there are no required leadership projects in the presentation mastery path. There are leadership electives if you want to add a leadership element, but there are some people that are in Toastmasters just to do speeches, and for them, presentation mastery is one of the best choices. I like using this layout for that reason, and also because I could highlight where the competent communicator projects then fall. They move around just a tad from path to path, but they are all scattered between levels 1, 2, and 3 consistently. So just to point out, the icebreaker, the evaluation and feedback project, and the research and presenting project are all in the mastering fundamentals level, level 1. The icebreaker is parallel straight across to the icebreaker project that we've always known and loved. And for the most part, the research and presenting project does the same thing. The evaluation and feedback is the one I spend the most time talking about. And the reason that I have that aligned to organize your speech and get to the point is because the expectations on the speech that's going to be given and then apply feedback and give again, the expectations in those evaluation objectives are not as strenuous as they are in some other projects. In other words, they're really looking for a well-organized speech that is put together with a compelling and interesting content crafted in a way that is of interest to the audience. And those elements are very fundamental to organizing your speech and getting to the point. So that's my stretch. I admit it up front, but I think that's why the two speeches in evaluation and feedback can work in parallel with our traditional organize your speech and get to the point. In the presentation mastery path, you'll find the body language speech in level 2. Between the other two required projects, the communication style, because remember, this presentation mastery is a communication focused path, not a leadership focused path. So it's natural that you would have the understanding your communication style, and the introduction to Toastmasters mentoring, which is the other required project that we know is consistent in level 2 across all 11 projects. Persuasive speaking is the required speech then for level 3. And you'll see then over in the level 3 electives where the remainder of the 10 competent communicator projects can be found. Now, why is this good that they're electives? Granted, we're not going to ask every member to do all 10 of those skills, but then perhaps every member doesn't need to do all of those skills. Maybe they are a mastery at vocal variety. So it's good that that's an elective for them and something that they can hit on from time to time as they work as they continue through various paths. But if I'm working with a brand new member and the new member comes in and gets through their level 1, and during those speech projects, I see that working with words or vocal variety or body language, for example, are something that they need to really put more emphasis on, I can encourage them then to pick up those skills in those elective projects while they continue to move on through the required projects in their path. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes? Need a
Yep,
high five?
it does
Okay.
for me. It does for
Okay.
me.
I just want to make sure. All right. So this is how, if you're stepping through a path with a new member or even a seasoned member, you can call out where they can pull in required elements that will be part of the path that they have chosen, but also continue to bolster up skills by using the elective options then to do so. Okay, now, just to give you another perspective on this, what you'll see is a document that I've used for years, literally years. I think I created this the first time around back in 2004, where I used to keep a one-pager of all the competent communicator projects and their objectives and their timeframes. This is another spot where I have added then where these things can align in pathways and what you get in pathways that you didn't get before in the Competent Communicator Project. So the things that you see in the red text are what Pathways brings to the table now in these 10 fundamental projects that we've grown so familiar with. We have tools like even at the icebreaker level, there is an icebreaker speech outline worksheet. Now, you've heard my story about having done 17 competent communicators. So when I did my first icebreaker in Pathways, that would have been my 18th icebreaker. I can promise that my 18th icebreaker was nothing like my very first icebreaker. As a 5-time DTM, I expect more from myself when I give an icebreaker these days than I did when I started back in 1995. Okay. But I will tell you this. I wanted to push pathways to the limits. So one of the resources that you get in the Icebreaker Project is the Icebreaker Speech Outline Worksheet. And I use that worksheet to prepare my 18th icebreaker. And I learned something from doing that. I encourage you, if you are an experienced Toastmaster, not to blow through the resources of pathways. I've been making myself use them through my first and second paths, and I have appreciated how they have challenged me to think outside the box. And I would encourage you to have that challenge as well. When you get into things like using descriptive language, it's not just picking the right words anymore. It's using those resources about literal and figurative language, descriptive words, literary elements, and the exercise ideas. For body language, they talk specifically in the content then about posture, stance, position, and movement, gestures, and now cultural differences that was never brought to the forefront in the traditional program. On the other 5, we have vocal variety, we have research and presenting. And again, I like to call out some of the benefits in the research and presenting. There's a research worksheet, a speech outline worksheet. Again, you talk about how to select a topic, how to research a topic, interviewing experts to gather more information, citing sources, and then finishing with organizing your speech. These are much more explicit tools than what were ever presented in our 1.5 pages of helpful text in the Competent Communicator projects. So again, Pathways is allowing members, new and experienced, to peel back the onion layers and go even deeper into their learning experience. Again, you can ignore a lot of it and gloss over it if you want, but if you're really wanting that full, rich experience, then use and experiment with the tools that are being presented to you in Pathways. So again, let me pause here and see if we have any feedback or questions from the group.
Thank you, Trish. Not a question, just an affirmation. You did 5 DTMs. I've had 4 and I just submitted 2. Just for fun, I submitted 1 Pathways DTM and 1 traditional DTM a week apart. But like you, I discovered the icebreaker outline was good. I I've been using it, and it, like you said, it challenges me, and I actually have been talking to myself like, oh, come on, see, don't be lazy, do this, write it down, think about it, what would be your answer to this question? And it, like you said, it really stretches me.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the tools. I'm a trainer. I actually borrow some of these tools and use them in my own, not the with the Toastmasters logo and all that, but the concepts. I'm
Right.
using them in some of my own workshops. They're that useful.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I know I've done the same thing.
Okay.
I think
Mary?
Mary has a question or a comment.
Yeah. I was wondering how you do that. Like, do you decide for the person what they should focus on? I mean, how can you do this without hurting their feelings? Like you say, well, your speech is pretty flat. I think you ought to work on vocal variety or how do you do it? Or maybe you don't do it. Maybe I misinterpreted what you said.
Oh, no, you're not misinterpreting it. I'll share a conversation I had last night with a member that I am going to be coaching for the Spring International Speech Contest. He's been a Toastmaster now just for a year. When he joined in December of last year and announced to me that he was going to win the 2019 World Champion of Public Speaking. And, it's very hard. You never want to say, do you really know what that journey's like? And it's not
Mhm.
realistic to think that you're going to win it your first year. You do have to remain encouraging. But he disqualified himself at the division level. And that was very hard for him to have to accept. But on the other hand, he's even hungrier now this year. So when I set up our first meeting for us to start talking about preparing his speech, I just laid it out for him. I said, we hurried you through the program last year to make sure you were eligible to compete. I told you then you did not learn all the lessons that I would have hoped you had learned. I asked you over the summer to follow up by giving speeches, going back and doing those basic projects in those first 3 levels over again, and learning the lessons that you needed to learn from them. And he gets this sheepish grin on his face because he knew I was going to say, and you didn't do what I asked you to do. So now you have to learn those lessons still. They're all fundamental skills to successful speaking, and you need to master them if you expect to win the world championship. So I have him working on specific projects. So in that particular scenario, Mary, I was able to say, you need this project. You need to work this project. And I'm not getting any argument from him. He knows I'm doing it for his own good. But I hope what you take away from that is I'm not trying to punish him or belittle him or embarrass him. I'm pointing out that he has weaknesses and he needs to strengthen them, and he can use those projects to strengthen those skills. So I see it as doing something very positive for him. So I have no
What,
problem doing it.
what about unsolicited you give unsolicited advice? Unless I guess if you're a speaker evaluator, you could, but that's soliciting it. But
one thing that I learned from a Toastmaster in a different district that I try to apply in our home clubs, people are comfortable with us. They expect some of us to be tougher on them, than others. But one thing that I learned from this other Toastmaster was to always start my evaluation this way. Mary, do I have your permission to do my best to make you a better speaker?
yes.
Then that's what I'm going to do my best to do for you. And so that cushions some of the constructive criticism that I'm going to give. And criticism is not a bad word. I need to point out what I think your strengths are, and I'm absolutely going to do that. But to be fair to you, I must also point out the areas where I think you have opportunity to grow. And I need to do that in the most positive way that I can. But the best way I can do it is by offering tools to you that can help you improve. So that's how I look at it. I hope that helps.
Okay. I don't know if we have any evaluators like you in the club. Okay.
Let me see. Do we have?
Nani?
I think Nina has a question.
I'm sorry, Nina. I'll get it.
Hey. I'm unmuted.
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question. We have several people in our club who have gone through one path and are starting their second path. And they're on their first level, first 3 speeches. And I'm noticing that rather than working on new speeches, they went back and took the same speeches they did on their first time through, made a few minor changes on them, and they're not going to learn anything. So,
okay.
Well, or very little. So what do you do to encourage them to be more creative, come up with new ideas to speak about, things like that?
There's two things that come to mind quickly. The first one is I'm okay with them recycling a speech as long as they've improved it. So in my evaluation, if I'm fortunate enough to be assigned as their evaluator, I'm going to be giving my feedback based on whether or not I think they've taken that speech to a new level. If they've just recycled the old speech and not made any effort to improve it, I'll probably make a comment along that line as well and challenge them with specific recommendations on how I think they could have done a better job in recycling that speech. Again, it's always just my opinion as an evaluator, but I try to present it in the most positive way. The second thing is, if you go back to my story, I always challenge people to give an icebreaker at the level of speaker they are today. So when I gave my 17th, I gave it as a 5-time DTM, and I expected my evaluator to evaluate me on that level. So that is something that I've learned within the clubs that I'm in, and I would challenge you to, if your club doesn't have that culture, to maybe start trying to introduce a culture like that. That every speech, whether it's an icebreaker or it's a level 5 keynote speech, it should always be evaluated at the educational level of that speaker, so that you're not just doing the basic icebreaker evaluation like, great job, you got up here, you gave that speech, yeah, I can see where you have strong skills. I can see where you probably have some room for improvement, and you have begun your journey as a Toastmaster. That's great for a brand new member who's never given a speech in front of the group before. But if my mentor got up there, and she's been in Toastmasters longer than me, and I expect a lot from her as a speaker, I don't hesitate at all at evaluating her at the level that she is and saying, really? This is what you brought for us, and the whole room will laugh because they know exactly what I'm talking about, or she'll have developed her little twitch habit again while she gives her speech, and I'll call her out on it. And I'm not the only one. We all do it to her. So we don't let her slide back into old habits again. And I think that's really what we owe each other as Toastmasters, is to keep us moving forward and improving ourselves. It's challenging to give those kinds of evaluations, but then I'm part of an advanced club, and that's what we challenged ourselves to do, was to give next level evaluations.
When we first, am I still on?
Yes,
Yep, you are.
When we first started with pathways in our area, or our division, district, whatever we started it, I was the only one doing pathways for the first year.
Oh my God.
Then a couple others joined in. But everybody who was evaluating gave everybody 5s all the time on the speeches. And so we had an officers meeting and told them there is no more 5. The best anybody, if they are outstanding, is a 4. So now when we do evaluations, you're usually getting 2s and 3s and honest feedback. And it's really helping people a lot more, because they're not saying, oh, you're wonderful, you're wonderful, you're wonderful, because none of us are.
Whitewashing has never helped anyone.
Yeah, and we all need honest feedback as to how we can get better.
In one of my clubs, we introduced, I don't want to say tougher as in mean, tougher as in tough in challenging the evaluators. We introduced that cultural shift by having the general evaluator give an evaluation of the evaluators.
Mm.
Okay, so not long ones, not 2 to 3 minute individual ones, but after, as they finished the evaluation part of the program and then came back up to before they evaluated the meeting, they did a quick summary. I saw consistency in the evaluators in how you praised each of the speakers on areas where they really did well. But I think all of you could have done a better job of calling out specific references where you were making suggestions for improvement, rather than just saying, I think you could have done a better job with your content structure. Give examples of where in the speech they could have improved the content structure and how might they have done that. So again, it's kind of an evaluation of the evaluators as a whole, but calling out specific areas where they do well or where they could improve. Some have taken it so far as to give comments to each of the evaluators. Now that we've done it for a while, we're okay with that. But we introduced it just as a evaluate the evaluators as a whole to start getting the club to think about that point of view.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jessie, did you have your hand up, or were you kind of removing your hand up like you wanted to say something?
Michelle, you're reading my mind. Just one thing I know, Nina, when you had mentioned where you have members that are recycling speeches. One example for me is that I actually did take a speech and kind of recycled it. And what I found in the process of doing that, it actually turned out better than the first time that I did it. So if there's a way that you can encourage your members, if they are going to recycle it, just to remind them that what you're trying to do when you redo a speech is to make it better and not just do it for the sake of doing it or having something to do.
I'll tack on to that. Thank you, Jessie, so much. When the first time I did the evaluation and feedback project, I was really trying to think of a speech that I wanted to give and refine and give again. Okay, and it took a lot of courage on my part, I'll admit that. I pulled out my very first contest speech that for close to 20 years now, I've thought should have won and didn't. Okay. And I took that speech to my advanced club and I gave the speech, and most of them had never heard it before. So I was able to truly recycle it the first time, and give it the way I was trying to give it or could remember having given it, and then opened myself up for their feedback. And I will tell you, they did exactly what I expected them to do. They ripped it apart. And I figured out finally why I didn't win. So I had fun then refining that speech, rewriting it, and giving it again. I actually ended up giving it 3 different times in 3 different versions before I got it to the point that I was really proud of it. And then, of course, they wanted me to compete with it, and I'm going, dang it, I knew you'd challenge me to do that too. But there's no humorous contest yet, so maybe when we have a humorous contest, I'll dust off the contest robe and give it again.
Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, let me see if I'm unmuted.
You're good. I can
You're
hear
good.
you.
Yeah, I think what Nina was talking about, what I got was that they recycle all 10 of their old speeches, not just one. Or I don't think that's really improving yourself that much to recycle all of your speeches. Is that what you're talking about, Nina?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that? If you took all of your old CC speeches and recycled them?
Well, I think as long as you're trying to refine that speech
Improve it.
or you're putting it into, say, a different project, area. So maybe you are looking at vocal variety the first time, you're looking at gestures the second time. But yeah, to use a speech over, again, I'm comfortable with the idea of someone using a speech over. Where what I'm not comfortable with is you're not showing some substantial improvement from the process.
I agree. And that's the
Right,
kicker.
right.
And
And sorry, Trish. I was just going to say speech champions or people who won at district level or even at division level going on to district, they recycle, they do that
Mm-hmm.
speech
right.
over and over and over again, hopefully always with the intention of getting better. But sometimes the iterations actually seem to not be as good as the previous one.
Mm-hmm.
So I personally, Nina and Mary, I don't see anything wrong with repeating a speech as long as, like Jesse was saying, the intention is to get better. And whether it actually becomes better or not is sometimes or always a matter of subjectivity. Someone may
Mm-hmm.
say, I like version 3 better or I like version 4 better. But as long as that's the intention, I I don't see any issue with that.
What isn't that for for getting credit though for another path? I mean, it just seems like you're not doing something new when if you're getting credit for it. Now, as contest speech, I guess you don't get credit each time under these humor or presentation mastery. No?
I think, I'm of the opinion that, someone working on a contest speech is going to give that speech probably 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, times in front of different clubs. And, Darren LaCroix will say, never throw away your stage time. So I always encourage them to get a manual speech out of it. Manual being pathways or traditional, doesn't matter to me. It
Okay.
works either way, because they're genuinely trying to improve. And I think that that's what that's what I would be watching for as a club officer, whether there's a sincerity in trying to work out the kinks in something and make it better, or just recycling speeches to recycling speeches. And I think that's where mentoring then has to come into play. If they're not challenging themselves to grow, they've got a bigger problem, on their hands, and their mentor needs to work on that with them.
Okay, I guess it could possibly be if one time you look for vocal variety and next time you look
Exactly.
for gestures.
Mm-hmm.
But I would still, okay. But keep doing it in different clubs.
Take it somewhere else and do it. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. It's a fine line. It is a fine line. But again, I think we have to look for the integrity in the member and what they're trying to accomplish by doing it. If they're truly trying to improve, I'd be okay with it then. If they're not, then I'd have a conversation.
Well, maybe I haven't been on to that all these years. I always try to get something fairly new, although each time when I do, although I do like research, like certain people having certain diseases that I know, people that I know personally that have had this disease and what I know about them.
Yep.
And that would be research my project.
Everybody's journey in our organization is different, and we just, we need to be supportive of what they're trying to do to improve themselves. So you just have to use your better judgment.
Okay.
All right, so let me just wrap up here really quickly. I promised Mary that I would speak to this one, and that is the engaging humor and the presentation mastery. The reason I pull these two out is because they are the pure communication paths out of the 11. If you have seen my other presentation where I have the core competencies on one side and then the 11 paths, I have them sorted by their focus on either communication or leadership. So if you are many seasoned speakers, when they talk to me, they're looking to just give speeches. They don't want to do leadership. They don't want to be an area director. They don't want to go down a leadership, journey at all. They just want to give speeches. And so I encourage them then to take presentation mastery and engaging humor and run with them and do them over and over again. Of course, the caveat there is that when you finish all 5 levels of a path, you must purchase a new instance of the path to repeat it again. So every time they go through all 5 levels, they will need to pay the $20 and purchase the path again. I've been marching to the at least get level 1, 2, and 3 done. If you want to experiment with all 11 paths and try them out, then try them out by completing levels 1, 2, and 3 and giving those 3 educational awards to your club every year. 3 levels can easily be done within a 12-month time frame, and that allows them then to continue to basically recycle the 10 projects of the Competent Communicator Project as well. So those are 2 conversations that I have found a lot of success with in talking to our seasoned folks that have been resistant to pathways here in District 3. And hopefully those experiences or those scenarios could help you then convert some folks as well. And then last, I'll bring this up again, so just so that it's on the screen and you can continue to look at it. But I have told Michelle I will make this presentation available to anyone who wants it. There's a short version that doesn't have the side-by-side of the matrix, the side-by-side matrix of my old Competent Communicator stuff with my pathway stuff, but there's also the longer version that I did tonight. Okay. All right, Michelle.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. And if anybody has a question on this particular slide, please unmute yourself and ask now. Otherwise, I will request Trish to stop the screen share so that we can, kind of see each other with a larger, there you are. And if you have questions and you want, I'm putting Mary in the spot, you want to go back to a particular slide, just say so and she'll try and scroll back as quickly as she can. That's always fun.
I'm getting better at driving, Michelle.
Yeah. So feel free to unmute yourself, or if you don't know how to unmute yourself, just raise your hand and I'll unmute you. But Jesse, I think, yeah, he unmuted himself. Go ahead, Jesse.
Hi, Jesse.
Well, hey, how are you, Trish?
I'm fine. I'm wearing my Target. Go for it.
Well, this time I think you can take the target off, because
Okay.
that has been one of the greatest presentations I've seen. And you've actually answered one of my questions of curiosity, which is, how do you actually map all of this back out into pathways? So I think for, my legacy folks, if they do start to ask those kinds of questions, it'd be great to be able to share that with them as I'm moving forward. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yes, really, this is helpful, especially, and you did say that you will share those slides, especially with, when I think we're going to have TLI early. I think you know it, most of you, for those who are not aware, uh, TLI can start as early as November 1st, meaning that's less than a month away. Yeah.
Crazy.
Which is an advantage in the sense that you can do pathways reorientation sooner instead of waiting for January. We can do it in November. So I'm hoping, and Nina, take note of that, I'm hoping that we can do that when we do our own division training. We can borrow shamelessly Trish's materials. Of course, we will leave the District 3 there so everybody knows where we got it from.
That's okay.
But yeah, that was very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, this summer we titled the Pathways class the Decoding Pathways, the Keys to the Secret Decoder Ring.
Yeah, I saw that and I made a point to watch it over the weekend, but of course, haven't watched this yet. But thanks for the reminder. I
No
think you
problem.
posted the link on the Pathways discussion forum,
I
so
did.
thank
You're
you.
right. Thank you.
We have some new faces tonight. Am I saying it correctly? Prashanti? Prashanti?
Sean?
Yes, Prashanti. Let me see if I'm unmuting you. Uh, that's always a challenge when you have two controls. There, Prashanti, go ahead. If you have any comments or questions. Hmm. You are unmuted, but we still cannot hear you. Do you happen to have um are you hearing him, Trish?
No, I am not.
Too bad. Well, there is an option, Prasanti, if you click on the chat, if you go down the bottom of your screen, you click on chat, you can type your question. Hopefully that will help you if you cannot have audio. In the meantime, is there anyone else with a question, or not necessarily a question, a comment? Dennis, maybe, or Sally? I think Sally, this might be the second time that we've seen Sally, or it might have been another Sally. But anyway, Sally, if you have a question or a comment, just go ahead and unmute yourself. Or if you don't know how to unmute yourself, let me unmute you. There. Sally, if you have a question, you are unmuted. Mhm. Okay, I think not. And Prashanti, he's
Looks like
on the
he's trying to
phone.
dial
He's trying
in.
to
So,
call
yeah.
us. Okay. Oh, with a dial in. Okay. In the meantime, I let me see.
Does anyone else
Lori,
have a good experience that they've had with a seasoned member and getting them to um, pursue pathways? I'm still looking for more success stories.
and I'm trying to make sure that I'm seeing everyone. And yes, actually I had, and I'm going to be really careful about, hopefully I have a way of describing and using the person's name. So if you hear the name, immediately delete it. So we have one member who had a break from Pathways. Well, sorry, not a break from Pathways, a break from Toastmasters for almost 3 years. He had been up to his competent AC, no, it's Advanced Communicator Silver. So he basically had made progress in ALB, Advanced Leader Bronze. Sorry for the alphabet soup for those who may not be familiar. He had done his Advanced Leader Bronze and his Advanced Communicator Silver, and then he had a forced 3 year break from Toastmasters. So when he came back, he was still looking for those projects. And instead of bringing him into pathways or insisting goes into pathways, what I did is because he had experience with the traditional program, I had him evaluating people on
Mhm.
pathways, regardless if he hadn't started on pathways yet. And it kind of just clicked in for him. He started using terminology from the CC manual, but he was evaluating people in pathways. And
Mhm.
so his transition was so smooth that he didn't even realize it. He was already in pathways. He still hadn't gone into base camp. So when he finally went, it was like that was an interesting experience. By the way, he's going to finish his DTM, or we're working on
Mhm.
helping him to finish his DTM
Yeah.
before the sunset because he's so close, advanced leader bronze and advanced communicator silver. And he actually completed his advanced communicator gold in the meantime. So we're just waiting for those projects, the HPL, and he started on his HPL last week.
Oh, good.
So yeah.
I had someone corner me at the last district event, which was just a couple of weeks ago, and they said, someone told me that you said to go ahead and start using pathways evaluation forms for non-pathways projects. You wouldn't have said that, would you? Again, the target on my back. And I just got this big grin on my face. I said, absolutely would have said that. Yep, go for it. I said, there's nothing wrong with that generic pathways evaluation form. It can be used on any project, doesn't matter what program. Absolutely start using those. And they were just going,
Right, right.
oh, what? And I go, yep, give me one good reason why we can't use that. And
Right. Yes, Mary, go ahead.
Where is that generic form for pathways?
if you go into Basecamp and then go into Tools and Resources, which would be in the burgundy menu up at the top, and then select Evaluations,
Mm-hmm.
your language of choice, mine is English, you know, and then you'll go through them. They're listed alphabetically, and it's called Generic Pathways Evaluation.
Oh.
Yeah, and Nina, I think go ahead and unmute yourself, Nina. Can you unmute yourself? There. Oh, you unmuted yourself and unmuted you, so we toggled each other.
Okay. I
Go
went
ahead.
in and printed out some copies of the general evaluation for my club because I'm VP Ed at my club. And then I ran out of them. I went back in and it wouldn't let me print more.
Huh. Really?
Download it to your local computer, and then you will always have access to it to print it. I don't know why you would have had a problem printing it online, but
I don't
should have
know.
been able to.
It wouldn't let me print them.
If anybody's looking for an abbreviated version, like if you're used to using half-sheet evaluations in your club, I have a club that I've worked with to do a compressed version of pathways evaluation forms. So it's 2 per page layout, and you'll find that in the District 3 online library. Feel free to go into the online library and steal to your heart's content. That's what it's there for. And I have uploaded tonight's presentation to the chat in the chat window if you want to download it before we wrap up tonight.
Did everyone get follow what Trish was saying about where to find the generic evaluation? Okay, good, because I actually will just very quickly, since I already have it queued here, you go into speech evaluations in pathways, and then this is one of the weird things. It's alphabetical in a weird kind of way. But anyway, see, it's letter G, generic evaluation resource. So when you click that, then it opens up and you can save it to your computer or print out, as the case may be. My computer is slow, sorry. So you have to click launch first. That one I find a bit of a nuisance, but anyway, once after you click launch, then if your computer is a little faster than mine, you should have there. So you would see this. This is the generic evaluation.
And Michelle, if you'll hold that screen right there, this is why I take the stance that I do. They're asking for a well-organized, well-supported speech on any topic. So this is not a specific skills-based evaluation. It is a generic speech evaluation. However, if you've heard me talk about the 8 standard criteria now that align with the International Speech Contest criteria, that's what this form is using. This is the form that we use for the basis of that presentation. So it's well organized, well supported, informational of any style looking for the content and the style to work well together. Those are standards for every speech. It doesn't matter what program that you're giving them from.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna get out of here now. Okay. And Jesse, is that signal to speak or just to scratch your brow?
I
I
like
feel
Jesse.
I feel like I'm at an auction because any gesture that I make, I've bid it on something. No, but actually, one of the things that I was going to say about the generic evaluation form, that is one of the things that I'm instituting in our club, especially for the written evaluation portion. So for members who aren't necessarily evaluating the speaker, they're using that form, and that gives them a little bit more practice on getting comfortable using that form and then thinking about evaluations from that perspective.
Mhm. I'm sorry, was that a question or a comment?
That was actually a comment.
Okay,
I,
okay.
I, I did
I
I didn't
thought so, and then I thought, okay,
I
did I
didn't just
miss it?
I just didn't bid $150 for the evaluation form. No.
Yeah. And Prashanti, I feel that he has a question, but unfortunately, he can't seem to get the sound out. Are you okay?
Are you able to hear me now?
Yay!
There.
Yay!
Okay,
Yes,
great.
yes,
Okay.
yes, success.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for organizing this session. I'm actually a member of the Well Toasted Club in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm the secretary of the club. Number of times we have talked about the pathways, tips, and tricks session that's happening every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Unfortunately, I was able to join at least late today. We had some religious function, and that so happened delayed me to join. I joined around 9:40, so I missed most part of it. But I got the presentation, and last I attended, I did get some gist of it. What you're talking about. I think that overall it was very helpful for me. That's all. Yeah. Thank you so much, though, for organizing it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Wow.
you.
Talk about a photo finish. Trish, it's your fault. I will put the target on your back. You were so engrossing that I totally forgot to watch the clock for the last few minutes. And I just
2
glanced and I'm
minutes
like,
over.
holy cow, we're over time. We will get disqualified if this were a con. So I, I am so
I don't have
sorry.
anything read.
Yeah. So if anybody has any questions, well, I'm the organizer. I will make an executive decision, extend by 2 minutes. So if anybody has a quick question or comment, speak now, or it we won't hear you because we'll be ending. Anybody has a quick question or comment, and I mean quick. Going, going. Okay, well, in that case, let's all thank Trish from from well, at least in my case, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much, Trish. And with all the signals and everything, whatever way we have of thanking you, Trish, you are just simply amazing. And I am
Thank
so
you.
I don't know what I did in another life or this life to have you as such a valuable resource. You are here almost every session, and just to let you know, this was actually supposed to be next week, but Carol McCulloch, who's another very valuable resource, had a very sad family, a death in the family, so she
Mm.
had to attend. Obviously, I mean, that comes before anything else. But Trish stepped in so quickly. So next week we will have Carol McCulloch. The topic will be about mentoring, I believe,
Oh,
or I will
good.
post it. I will make sure I post it. And so, thank you again, everyone. If you wish to share or to review the recording, it will be posted on the Pathways Discussion Forum. If you are not a member of the Pathways Discussion Forum, after I end the recording, I will be posting it on the chat and you can get an express approval if you hang around. So, at this point, I will end the recording and thank you again, everyone.
Thank you.